Tonight, President Trump is facing his first crisis requiring decisions that only a president can make. Tonight, the Pentagon is presenting Mr. Trump with options for a U.S. strike on the Syrian regime, a response to that nerve gas attack this week that killed more than 80 Syrian civilians.
Abdul Hamid al-Yusuf lost his 9-month-old twins in the attack, Aya and Ahmed. "Say goodbye, my loves," he said, before he buried them along with his wife and several other family members.
There's certain photos that come across that really wake you up to the realities of what is happening in other parts of the world, and that was a photo that really broke your heart.
So one of the saddest things is what happens with Syria, where we forget about it and we don't talk about it. And there's no news from Syria, and we don't really know what's happening in the world. There's no stories. And then something awful happens. There's a gas attack, or somebody washes up ashore. And then suddenly the world fixates on it for a minute. And the way our attention spans flutter right now, it's crazy.
That was a big deal. Remember, it was, the Tomahawk missiles got launched and, hit the targets at the airport, and people thought it could be escalated further.
For the most part, I think Americans were proud that we took a stand and we said, no, that was wrong, that was a crime against humanity, and we have to respond to it.
We didn't use chemical weapons in World War II. You had someone as despicable as Hitler, who didn't even sink to using chemical weapons.
Oh, God.
Hitler didn't use chemical weapons. Not true. There should be a standard rule to just never bring up a Hitler reference in a White House briefing. It never goes well. He broke that rule.
Everybody learned about gas chambers. Everybody learned about gas chambers when you learn about the Holocaust. How could you say that this didn't happen?
And then try to defend it in this incredibly bizarre way.
I think when you come to sarin gas, he was not using the gas on his own people the same way that Assad is doing. I mean, there was clearly, I understand your point, thank you.
Well, good morning, girls.
Good morning, Aunt Lydia.
I friggin' love The Handmaid's Tale. There was no show that was more visually recognizable or apropos for 2017.
The Handmaid's Tale was an adaptation of a Margaret Atwood novel. That's a classic. I mean, a lot of people read it in English class.
It's set in this very religious dystopia where women have essentially lost all of their rights. And I think it resonated with so many people because a lot of women, especially this year, felt very marginalized and as if their rights or the things that they deserve were being steadily stripped away.
Watching The Handmaid's Tale was like watching the year 2017, the sequel. I was like, gotta fit my head for this bonnet because it's happening.
This three-prong gadget is the latest fad, spinning out of control with kids.
Some of them are rainbow, tie-dye. Spinning them is oddly satisfying and it's really fun.
For a while, they were everywhere.
Only in 2017 could a toy meant to ease anxiety be the most popular thing of the year.
I think I'm too old for this. I don't really get it.
The actual experience exceeds all expectations. It is something that's hard to put into words. It gives people that type of energy, that type of power.
Everyone who bought a ticket to the Fire Festival, you burnt. People showed up to the Fire Festival expecting to show up to the Four Seasons of music festivals, and instead they got the Motel 6.
They kind of had to do these sort of FEMA tents to fit people in, and people were being held in pens.
My favorite part was this meal they got, which was in one of those styrofoam shells, and it was a slice of cheese and a piece of bread.
All the celebrities that promoted it were like, my bad, we're not going, and also, you're dumb.
And so all these people who paid so much money for these tickets are tweeting they gave me a piece of cheese and I can't get off the island. What do I do?
Another passenger recorded this altercation. Look at this. At Chicago's O'Hare Airport, United Airlines says the man was one of 4 people chosen at random to give up their seats to flight crew. Wow, look at that.
United Airlines had the audacity to drag a man off of a flight this year, and someone had the presence of mind to record it. They were ruthless. It was so unnecessary. Like, it's bad enough that like we have to like fly in these tubes with our knees like pinned to another chair. Like, let's not add insult to injury by literally insulting and injuring the passengers.
In upstate New York today, a mother gave birth to a baby with more than 1 million people watching.
April's 15-month pregnancy kept the virtual world captivated for hours at a time. The 15-year-old inspired this viral video of a pregnant mom dancing in a giraffe mask.
Everyone was watching her, I guess, go into labor for a long amount of time, right? Why? Why did we watch that?
Yeah, it was months. It was sort of a countdown that lasted way longer than it was supposed to. I mean, there were like thousands of people watching this video at the same time, and then when it happened, it was like 20 seconds, and then we had a baby giraffe. It was just so quick, so much build-up, and then it happened so quickly.
Well, a hippopotamus at the Cincinnati Zoo has been a viral sensation since birth.
But now Fiona the hippo is upping her game, you could say. Fiona pulled off a feel-good photo bomb during a marriage proposal at the zoo. Take a look. Nick Cabell popped the question to girlfriend Haley Rule. They're sitting there in front of the hippo exhibit, and Fiona presided over the proposal.
My favorite story of 2017 was definitely Fiona the hippo.
It really feels like she just ripped off April. Did people watch her give birth too?
We followed Fiona as she grew up, as she learned to swim.
Fiona the hippo is the Beyonce of the hippo world. And I'm not using hyperbole. Her publicist at the zoo said that it is literally like she represents Beyonce.
She was the biggest celebrity of the year.
Family and fans of Chris Cornell are paying their final respects to the late musician.
It does appear that Cornell took his own life.
Chris Cornell, lead singer of Soundgarden, Audio Slave, just a wonderful songwriter, great musician, what a voice.
That was so sad because he was a person that gave voice to a certain kind of suffering. And you really heard in his music the darkness that he was ultimately wrestling with. So to have him die because of that suffering and darkness, it feels like he gave us this insight into what he was going through in a way that we can only be grateful for, but it also feels especially tragic because now you listen to that music and you hear his pain.
We have new details on a deadly attack in Portland.
He is seen on surveillance camera yelling racial and anti-Muslim slurs at 2 teenage girls on a commuter train before stabbing 3 Good Samaritans who were trying to stop him.
I saw myself in those young girls, you know, especially like young women of color. You know, the fact that people feel so comfortable now, especially in their hatred, is what's really uncomfortable. I'm happy though that there are men like those guys who did stand up for those young ladies, because like, I mean, it helps to keep the world in somewhat of a balance. That, you know, as horrible as that guy was who's berating these young women, for every one terrible person, there's at least like 3 good people that are trying to like combat that divisiveness and that hatred.
We begin tonight with a developing story in England, where there was a deadly explosion at an arena in Manchester, where the American pop singer Ariana Grande was performing.
The chaos began just as the Ariana Grande concert came to an end. Video posted online shows people running to escape in what concertgoers described as a stampede. Parents were waiting outside the arena to pick up children when they described hearing several explosions.
22 people, including children, were killed in this bombing. Officials now say 119 people were treated at hospitals. 64 of them are still hospitalized at this hour.
The Manchester concert bombing was super, super shocking and super sad. Like, the fact that people, and mostly a lot of like kids and teens, were just like living their lives, going to see a concert with their friends and with their family, and that they were met, you know, at the end of the concert with this horrific bombing. It was so hard to watch.
It's tough because people aren't safe like anywhere, and but you can't stop living your life.
A national fraternity at Penn State University is suspended after the death of a student.
Timothy Piazza's family has not seen the video that, according to the grand jury report, shows fraternity members carrying Piazza's limp body upstairs, smacking him in the face and pouring liquid on him as he goes in and out of consciousness for hours.
Heartbreaking for the parents. You send your kids to school, that's not how it's supposed to end up.
It seems like every year when Rush comes around, there's another death, there's severe injury or hospitalization. I think that it's an epidemic that's happening on college campuses, and it has happened for a long time.
So the Penn State one was especially brutal because it was really a death by neglect. Not only did he have that much alcohol, he then fell down a flight of stairs and lay at the bottom of the stairs for hours. Nobody helping him, nobody sending him to the hospital, nobody taking care of him. And then the fraternity covered it up.
I was just in college just a few years ago, wasn't that long ago. And you think about the frats and the sororities and things like that, and I'm just like, well, why does hazing have to be a thing? To see his family dealing with this and the fact that this death could have been prevented is just a very, very horrible thing to watch. It was definitely avoidable, and the poor kid just like, he didn't have anybody there that was looking out for him.
We have confirmed that FBI Director James Comey has been fired.
This is quite shocking because it's very rare. It's really only happened one time in history where the president has fired the director of the FBI.
James Comey got fired in the most embarrassing way possible because your boy was out of town when it happened.
I found out probably around the same time as James Comey.
He was in California and he basically had to learn that he got fired from the news.
In the Shakespearean drama that is Trump's America, we do not know the role that James Comey will end up playing. If this is Harry Potter, he's like Snape.
When Donald Trump fired James Comey, it was a shocking moment. You know, it was, yes, definitely people were surprised. I think we've now reached a point with Donald Trump where the bar is raised so high for what will surprise us. We just don't know.
I'm really not sure how to pronounce it. Here it is in its original usage from a tweet 6 minutes after midnight. Despite the constant negative press, Kofefe?
Kofefe. Kofefe.
I've been saying Kofefe. I've heard Kofifi.
I say
You've
Kofifi.
You said, Anne-Marie says Kofifi. You say corn cob.
Yeah, I landed on corn cob. That's where I'm sticking.
There have been so many different interpretations of what that is. You have people that are pro-Trump saying this proves that he's a genius. He knows this word that no one else knows. And then you have people on the left saying, okay, he's drunk. He doesn't even know what he's tweeting. I'm kind of in the middle. I think it was maybe a typo. I think it's hilarious the way that it kind of blew up. And I think some people, at least in the middle, were able to unite and say, okay, this is funny.
CNN is ending its relationship with comedian Kathy Griffin. The move comes just a day after Griffin posed for this controversial photo. She's holding what appears to be the severed head of President Trump.
I'm all about free speech. I believe in free speech, and I know that everyone in America does. It probably was not the best time to do something like that, and it probably wasn't the right kind of free speech to exercise in this climate or in any climate. Like, nobody wants to see the current leader of the free world with like blood dripping down their neck and like beheaded. Like, no matter what your politics are, that's not really a pleasant image. And people really raged. Like, people were really upset at her for that. And she's still dealing with the backlash of one picture that she took.